but he has a resolution.
You got mine? I'm Rodney Ellis. I want to thank all of you all for coming. My staff's keeping me on time. I had to remember we do have a tour as well. A couple of housekeeping items. Number one, I want to thank everybody for being here, particularly the Biggers family members, and give them a round of applause for coming. We're bringing a few more chairs in, and I was mentioning to David Hales when I came in that initially, I think on Tuesday, we had about 35 people who had RSVP'd. Shh, tell them outside there, Shelley. We can hear them, just mention to them. I hear Earl Huttonall's voice. Come on in here, Earl. Yeah, oh, there he is. Yeah. We had about 35 people who had RSVP'd on Monday or Tuesday. So I said, well, just put out a reminder notice. And then by the end of the day, we had about 200 people who had RSVP'd. So I said, well, obviously we got to shut it down. But I want to apologize. There are a lot of events going on in Houston because we're lucky to have fall weather this time of the year in Houston. So there's the Sylvester Turner Fun Day in the Park out in Acres Home, and then this is Earth Day. So out at Tom Bass Park, where you all will go across the street to Adair Park, so our buses will be used. So we only have one bus, but we do have a map. So the ones who RSVP'd early, and obviously all of the family members will get on the bus. But we'll apologize, but you see what they look like on photos, they're online, and there's a direction on my website where you can hit them all if we can't get you on the bus. But we're real proud. I will tell you, so you can start downtown for the family members, we're gonna skip those two because you saw one if you're at the Laurel Hotel. You can look right across the street and see one. There's one other one that is downtown. That one is the one that the family members saw that you see behind me, and there's one on the Juvenile Justice Center. But you will go to Fifth Ward to see one. So Houston spread out. If you came to visit Dr. Biggers and Mrs. Biggers, you know this is a big town. And then you go all the way to Tom Bass Park. And then you see the replica that is here. But I want to thank everybody for being here. It's an absolute honor to welcome you all to this historic occasion as we dedicate the campus in the name of two remarkable individuals, John and Hazel Biggers. That deserves a round of applause. Alvia Wardlow and I went around and around on whether we ought to do the atrium, whether we ought to do this building, and then we came to a consensus, we're gonna do it all. That is an aquatics center where seniors do their exercise and young people learn how to swim. On the left side across the street where there's a magnificent mural by a young Nigerian artist, also inspired by the work of John Biggers. And then that other building used to be the Oilers training camp. In case you forgot the Oilers, how about Earl Campbell? In fact, his locker room is in there. And that building has no windows. So our staff members who are in this building now used to work in that building. So plans in place, fingers crossed, that will be a library, which I think would be a tremendous tribute to the Biggers family as well. But today we gather not only to celebrate the opening of this new facility, but also to pay tribute to a couple whose lives and legacies have profoundly shaped the artistic cultural fabric of our city and beyond. I want to begin by extending a heartfelt welcome and a thank you to the Biggers family for giving us permission to try and replicate the work of John and Hazel Biggers. And a thank you to Texas Southern University, Alvia Wardlow and Earl Huttonall in particular. First for connecting me with David Hales and for working with us on expanding the vision that David and I had to do one replica to do up to the 5 we have now, and another one coming soon. Your presence here today marks this meaningful moment in this occasion. There are some elected officials who will come. One is going to speak after I do, who is the county judge for Harris County. But you're joining us to recognize John and Hazel Biggers' incredible contributions to Houston, which were not always appreciated. I was looking at Wikipedia last night, Judge. I sent it to you. I hope I don't steal your thunder. But what caught me was that line where John Biggers applied in a competition with the Museum of Fine Arts, and he won. They didn't know who he was, but he won. And then when they had the ceremony, he couldn't accept the award because of the color of his skin. So with that faux pas, suddenly they integrated the Museum of Fine Arts. At least you could go on Thursdays. And black people could go. But I want to thank my dedicated staff whose tireless efforts have made this event possible. I want to sincerely let them know I appreciate their hard work. I know I'm a hard person to work for. Alex, thank you and all of the team. When I came in, I was letting the shades up in the room where folks who were setting this room up, that was an event here yesterday, and they had to repurpose the room. So they were in there watching TV because they went there last night trying to cool this place down. By the way, when you get 100 bodies in there, it gets a little warm. But give my staff a round of applause. John Biggers arrived in Houston in 1949 to establish an art program at the Texas State College for Negroes, now Texas Southern University, one of my alma maters. He came at a time when segregation and systemic barriers sought to limit access to cultural institutions and every other institution. But instead of allowing these injustices to silence him, John Biggers used his art to tell powerful stories, stories of resilience, identity, and triumph over adversity. His work, deeply rooted in African and African American history, gave voice to the beauty and strength of a people and a culture often overlooked or misrepresented and misunderstood. His murals found in public spaces across Houston and around the world are testaments to his vision, a vision that art should not only be seen, but should speak. It should educate, and it should inspire us. That same vision is what has fueled our efforts to bring more murals to downtown Houston, particularly those of John Biggers. You're gonna hear from Tebow and Audrey Decker, a young couple that I met during the pandemic. They live in New York, but they have a funny accent. They're French citizens and American citizens, and they flew in just for this event. So they're gonna speak, but briefly, and they're gonna be on the tour. They won't stay in to have dinner with us and the family tonight, but I thank you, Audrey and Tebow, for your tireless efforts. Of the 70 murals that we now have, 50 in downtown, right? And 10 that are not downtown. There are more that are replicas of John Biggers than any other artist. His legacy reminds us that art is more than just decoration. It is history, it is culture, and it is a call to action. But behind this legendary artist stood an equally extraordinary partner, a woman, his wife, Hazel Biggers. She was a financial guru and a steadfast partner. Hazel was a quiet force and ensured John's artistic vision had a solid foundation. She was a woman of great intellect, discipline, and generosity, playing a pivotal role in managing grants and contracts at Texas Southern University for nearly 40 years. Her commitment to education, her keen financial mind, and her unwavering support of her husband's work were instrumental in preserving and advancing their shared legacy. John and Hazel Biggers were more than just an artist and an administrator. They were mentors, visionaries, and pioneers who shaped generations of artists and students and artist lovers like this graduate of Texas Southern University who stands before you today. They saw the power of education, the necessity of cultural pride, and the potential for art to transcend barriers. Their home was a gathering place for thinkers, creators, dreamers, a space where conversations on history, art, and justice flourished. It is only fitting that we dedicate this campus in their honor. This campus where future generations will work, where future generations will learn and build upon the foundation that they laid. Whether providing feedback to its students or creating art to the tunes of Nina Simone and Mahalia Jackson, John and Hazel were known to be present at the art building 24/7. While this campus will not be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, my hope is that this space will serve as a beacon of progress, unity, and creativity, just as John and Hazel Biggers exemplified throughout their lives. I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank you for being here today to share this moment in history with us. Let us continue to celebrate their legacy, uplift their contributions, and ensure that their impact remains an enduring part of Houston's cultural and educational landscape. I'd be remiss if I did not thank Representative Yolanda Jones, who I think is here. Doc Holliday is here representing Congressman Al Green. Councilmember Tiffany Thomas's office is here. There may be others. My wife is here, who tolerates me. One of my kids may show up at some point, but we appreciate you being here. And with that, I want to bring up the county judge of Harris County. Harris County is the third largest county in America. If it was a separate state, it would be the 25th or 26th largest state in America. Would you please welcome to the stage the Honorable Lena Hidalgo.
All right, thank you so much, Commissioner, and thank you, everyone. I'm gonna do this because commissioners are just a little bit taller than I am. So anyway, I'm so happy to be here with you, Commissioner, and with all of you. First of all, just the campus is long overdue and a beautiful, beautiful place for community to gather. I think that the wonderful weather today is no accident. I also noticed that the folks are here from Street Art from Mankind, who Commissioner was mentioning earlier, and we thank you guys. One of the murals, Lady Justice, I don't know if you guys have seen it downtown, it's beautiful, beautiful with the scales of justice, and of course it's an African-American woman, so I have that, a picture of that hanging in my living room, because I love it so much and I love this project so much. And I say that because Commissioner, of course, is too humble to explain his role in all of this. And that is, he and his staff have been working for a couple of years at this point in identifying walls. So we'll be going to an event with Commissioner Ellis, and he'll just say, that's a good wall. And so, but of course the walls belong to somebody. And so doing the work of contacting whatever organization, whatever company, restaurant, you name it, that will give us permission to paint a beautiful mural on their wall is no easy feat. And so to do that 70 times over on top of all the work that you and your staff do for the community. So let's give them all a round of applause. This is powerful. I am very proud that such an incredible artist is part of our community's legacy, and I know that all of these murals, the naming of this campus, will make sure that more of us know about him, his art, his family. Of course, welcome to his family. We really appreciate you guys being here. I know we're all eager to go see the art and enjoy this beautiful day. So let me read this proclamation that I have to celebrate this day. Whereas John Thomas Biggers was a visionary artist, educator, and storyteller, whose murals and paintings captured the beauty, resilience, and cultural richness of the African and African-American experience. Dr. Biggers broke barriers and inspired generations, founding the art department at Texas Southern University in 1949, mentoring young Black artists, and shaping the cultural landscape of Houston and the nation. Whereas Hazel Biggers, his devoted wife and partner, I should say my husband is here today too, was a steadfast presence throughout his life and work, and her contribution to the arts community and support of her husband's mission were instrumental in preserving and elevating his legacy. The dedication and honoring of the Biggers is a powerful affirmation of the values they championed: education, cultural identity, community empowerment, and the transformative power of the arts. Let's see this not just as a tribute to two remarkable individuals, but also an investment in future generations who will visit this building, as well as gain inspiration to carry forward the Biggers legacy. Now, therefore, I, Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo, do hereby proclaim April 12th, 2025, John and Hazel Biggers Day in Harris County, Texas. And I'm just so thrilled to encourage all of us to reflect on their impact and the incredible legacy. So may this be just a beautiful day we all remember. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Commissioner, you and your staff, and let's enjoy seeing these beautiful murals.
Thank you. Thank you. Give I So what I'd like to do, T-Ball, I'm gonna let you all speak after the family speaks. You know, David is one I know so well, but David is such a modest guy. He decided who from the family would speak. We're so glad all of you all are here. Would all of the members of the family please stand so we just see what you look like, by the way. Give them a warm round of applause. Thank you so much. And Walter, Archie, did I get it right? And Andretta Hales are gonna speak in that order. And I'll help you come up with this, okay? Yeah, look, y'all look so good. You tell us your relationship there. I said, we put this thing up so high. There you go.
Thank you, Dave.
You're tall. I'll put this here for you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
As I've said many times before, getting old is not for sissies. Commissioner Ellis, Dr. Wardlaw, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a pleasure to be here. My name is Walter Archie. My family knows me as Joey, and I am the senior nephew of John Biggers. I had no idea how well known my uncle was. I mean, hey, he's my uncle. I'd visit him from time to time and so forth and so on. Yeah, I knew he painted pictures, and I might point out that he was extremely generous with his art. My house looks like a John Biggers museum with all paintings, including a print of that one right over there. Recently, I was fortunate enough to do some background work on a series called Lawman Bass Reeves. And in the process of doing that, I found out that the leading lady actor for that particular series, who played Bass Reeves' wife, she and her mother had a picture done by John Biggers. And when they found out that I was his nephew, oh man, there was nothing I couldn't do. But on behalf of the Biggers family, I wish to extend my personal thanks to you, Mr. Commissioner, to all of your staff who had anything to do with this magnificent get-together. Thank you so much, so very much.
My doctor tells me every time I go, you all know if you're from Houston, I ride bicycles. And when I leave, he yells out, Rodney, don't fall. I'll tilt this down.
Please do, yes. Good morning. I am here to speak for those unsung heroes who stand in high-profile relationships. Those unsung heroes would be the spouses of those who are married to the famous, the important, the prominent, the outstanding one. Today, I acknowledge your partnership. This tribute is to you. It is said that behind every great man, there is a strong and supportive woman. Well, this woman was my auntie, Hazel Hales Biggers, who is the, I get choked up when I talk about her. She has taken that description to a completely different level. Yes, she was behind Uncle John, encouraging his artistic work, giving him honest and insightful feedback as needed. She was behind Uncle John, supporting him as a man. And yes, Auntie Hazel was beside Uncle John as they traveled the world side by side. They attended star-studded events side by side. They entertained celebrities in their homes side by side. And they were side by side as they supported and encouraged members of the Biggers and Hales families. And there were other times when Hazel's position shifted and she stood in front of her husband as the financier, the family accountant, the investor, a gift that Uncle John valued and cherished. One Monday morning, Auntie Hazel said to Uncle John, "John, you can retire now." This was way before he thought he could retire. That freed Uncle John, because now all he has to do is focus on his God-given gift of creating art and allowing his energies to flow to and from the universe with each brushstroke. In closing, the Hales family extends a heartfelt thank you to Commissioner Ellis and Harris County for recognizing the unsung hero in this love story by including my auntie's name to this building. Thank you for honoring the legendary artist, my uncle, Dr. John T. Biggers. Thank you for all your efforts and dedication into making this day possible. And I would now like to say a special thank you. Uncle David, please stand. David is now the unsung hero of both the Biggers and the Hales families. As he continues to fulfill his duties as requested by John and Hazel. My name is Andretta Hales, and I sing the song of the unsung heroes in our families. Thank you.
I was joking earlier, I was telling the family how when I went to see David, I called him a couple of times. I got the number from Alvia and Hutnall, and I'm sure he's wondering, who's this guy with this deep Texas drawl calling me, worrying the heck out of me? So when I was gonna go see him, my wife said, "You know, Rodney, you don't let people get a word in. Maybe I better go with you so you can calm down." But it's just been such a delight, and David is just such a special bond that we have developed. Thank you. And next, we have a treat for you. I was a student at Texas Southern University, and I was also on the debate team. That's why I talk so much. Ms. Freeman was coming. I don't know if Dr. Freeman's wife came, but would you please welcome the Texas Southern University debate team for a special tribute for John and Hazel Biggers.
And the angel of the Lord appeared before her and said, Fear not, for on this day a child is born unto you.
There once was an ancestral spirit that lived, died, and decided to reveal itself to the world again.
In the month of July, after a beautiful mating, this spirit appeared as a gift of life in the womb of a strong, beautiful African mother in Gastonia, North Carolina.
270 days, or 9 months later, on April 13th, 1924, a wonderful son was born. His father, Reverend Paul A. Biggers, a Baptist preacher, and his wife, Karina Biggers, were so blessed that they named him John Thomas Biggers.
The Texas Southern University debate team is proud to make this Reader's Theater presentation, scripted especially for this occasion by head coach Dr. Gloria Batiste Roberts, entitled
Once in a Thousand Years.
Dr. John Biggers came to prominence after the Harlem Renaissance. He believed that self-dignity and racial pride could be consciously approached through art, especially his own realist murals.
The famous symphonic conductor, Arturo Toscanini, remarked the first time he heard Marian Anderson, the pioneer of performing arts.
Hers is a voice heard once in 1,000 years.
In a similar vein, beholding the works of John Biggers, a pioneer in the visual arts, he might say, Behold, a genius seen once in 1,000 years.
It is this artistic genius, John Biggers, whom we salute today.
Dr. Biggers had numerous favorite writers, including Zora Neale Hurston and James Baldwin, both of whom were his close friends.
While he painted with the brush, they painted with words, words that touched his spirit and inspired his paintings.
The intellectual and spiritual foremother of a generation of Black women writers, Zora Neale Hurston believed in the beauty of Black expressions and traditions and the psychological wholeness of Black life.
This wholeness and beauty is also seen in the arts of John Biggers.
Both were rooted in the Black African culture, from which she wrote.
And from which he painted. John Biggers walked in the history of our culture, just as the history of our culture walked in him.
After visiting West Africa, John Biggers knew what we would need in order to be free, so we could again, like our ancestors, know, in spirit and in truth, the divine of ourselves, the God of ourselves.
And this is why he was, is, and always shall be the artistic genius seen once in 1,000 years.
John Biggers knew and understood so well the pervasive, and if left unhealed, the perpetual ramifications of our Mayapa experience as an African people.
Acts that have contributed to the ongoing attempt to destroy our minds, hearts, bodies, and souls.
Acts that account for the worst stories of dehumanization ever known to humankind.
And so, this is why John Biggers knew and understood that the cumulative and continuing impact of these unprecedented atrocities had created such a deep and painful schism within us, as well as between us and amongst us,
that the depth of the distortions, disconnections, and dissonance demanded the need for something that would carry a deep, penetrating, pervasive, and perpetual vibratory resonance.
And it was with his art that he spoke to us.
For it was his art that allowed us to hear and receive the essence of the totality which was African.
It was through his arts that we experienced and witnessed the purpose of his calling.
He called us back to the truth of ourselves through his art.
Because he knew and understood the mightiness of this task. He was not afraid to make himself important to us.
Because he, like the poet Langston Hughes, had known rivers deep and wide like the Euphrates.
Because he, like Sterling Brown, was a strong man who kept on coming on. Each mural and each painting had more impact and more healing and more beauty.
And this is why he used his art and called us to Harambe, the Swahili word for pulling together.
He understood we must pull together to always overcome the enemy's tactics to divide and conquer our collective spirits. Spirits which he realized could only transcend as well as ascend in harmony, peace, equality, and love together.
You will see it in his art. You will feel it in his art. You will love it in his art.
He used his art to be that of a lion, roaring with unwavering intention to wake up the consciousness of the village. For he knew our lives and the lives of our children and our children's children depended on it.
He used his art to collect and gather the treasures of our culture, our truths, keeping them safely and guarding them sacredly until such time when we were ready to claim them as our own and thus ourselves.
He used his art to speak to us, and when necessary, to hold us in the deepness of its resonation, protecting us by assuring that we did not turn and look back until we knew what we were looking for, and how to find it lest we otherwise turn into a pillar of salt, still desiring and seeking the oppressor's images and symbols of nothingness, to define and determine the essence of our beingness.
His art became like that of the cobra, hypnotic. Have you seen the mural, the web of life? Hypnotic.
He used his art to lull us into the highest state of consciousness, which he knew to be Africa. Consciousness which he knew to be God consciousness.
For it was through his arts we heard the voice of God,
calling us to return home to Mother Africa, back to the place where all life began, back past modern day racism and oppression.
And because he spoke to us and taught us well,
we know his spirit is forever. We know his spirit, like this river, keeps right on running. We know his spirit is the art he left us.
and this is why we know that now, as an ancestor, he is still present to us.
And it is in this spirit that we honor and celebrate who he was, is, and always shall be.
John Biggers has given us so much for our students and our children to be nurtured on.
For even 1,000 years they will echo their praise for this artistic genius, and his name will be heard above the rumblings of time.
John Biggers.
John Biggers.
John Biggers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Southern University Next, we will hear from the person who now has the rights that controls what happens with any attempt to do a replica of John Biggers' works. You know, we were trying to decide where to have this event, and you get such a feel for Dr. Biggers and Mrs. Biggers over at the museum at Texas Southern on the campus. I had the privilege of knowing them well because I showed up as a student, 19 years old at TSU. Only if I'd had the good sense when I was hanging around their house asking for free food to ask for some of that art. And I think I would have gotten it. Dr. Alvia Wardlaw, would you please share? I'm going to put it up here. You want to hold it? You don't rush, because you do so much for us.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so honored to be here to talk about two very special people, John and Hazel Biggers. And my remarks begin in their home, because that's where they not only entertained, as Andretta said, but they counseled, they opened their hearts, they had debates, they exchanged great wisdom with all who came, and all were welcome. And I think that is a major part of what John and Hazel represented. They brought so much to this community. They came as part of that first wave of faculty and staff that my father was a part of, bringing a new integrity, a new sense of purpose, a new sense of our own history with them. And much of that was due to John's beautiful, beautiful works of art. But Hazel was, as Andretta said, right there with him. Hazel was fond of saying that she and John Biggers became friends through conversation. They met each other at Hampton and they would just talk. And from those conversations came love and marriage and a life together. And throughout their lives, it was that conversation that instilled so much in all of us in turn. So I just want to share one memory of John and Hazel, because there's so many that we all have, and I know Mr. Hudnall is coming after me, so be ready. Jacob Lawrence was in town. The great Jacob Lawrence and his wife, Gwen Knight Lawrence. And John and Hazel had invited them to their home for dinner. And I was there, I brought the Lawrences, and Jacob Lawrence had on this deep indigo blue, like this blue in his mural, this deep indigo blue shirt that John had gotten on one of the travels that they made. And I brought Jake and Gwen to the door, and Jake had on a deep indigo blue African shirt, and when the door opened, it was this huge embrace and recognition between these two men. And I think it's that kind of connection that these two incredible human beings brought to Houston, and I think it's so fitting that this campus is named after these two amazing individuals, John and Hazel Biggers, and that our commissioner has brought a sense of culture and art to this campus. They're beautifully combined, and that's something we need to remember. Thank you so much.
Earl, come on up, and T-Bone and Audrey, you close us out, and we'll proceed, so come on up a little closer. Mr. Hudnall is a photographer extraordinaire, and he also is a collector of fine African, and don't show off, don't the doctor told me, my eyes told me, don't fall. I'm not up and hold my hand, brother. But come up here. He is a great photographer. He has a wonderful eye for detail. And on each of the murals that the family in Texas Southern have let us try to replicate, it has been the photography of early Hudnall that has been the guiding light. And every time they look at another picture, then they find some other detail. And I don't know how you invert the pictures on some of them. And when the curators found that was inverted, then they had to paint it over and start over again. But early Hudnall is one of the greatest photographers in the history of America. Would you please welcome?
Thank you, Commissioner. And to the city of Houston, and the county commissioner and the citizen of this great state and this city, thank you for being here. This is the great quilt that comes forth and brings people together, of the remnants of the things we wear, how it is stitched, and it covers us and protects us. Everything that I wanted to say have already been said. So I'm going to try to go back in time accordingly to how, and let me first say this, I'm going to change from Dr. John Biggers to Mr. Biggers to Papa John. I'm going to change from Hazel Biggers to Mom Biggers. And I refer to them that way because of my relationship. I met John Biggers, or Papa John, for the first time in an art seminar at Texas Southern University where I came to study art. He said, art is life. One must draw upon his personal experiences, family, community, and a sense of who we are. And then I began to understand, being a boy from Mississippi, growing up, joining the Marine Corps, and then coming to Texas Southern. And at that time, I realized that John was a storyteller. That was the connection. My grandmother was a storyteller, and I used to listen to stories of her as to how life were when she was growing up. But John Biggers, or Papa John, talked about the little turtle creek that ran by the house, and him and his brothers, they would play with the turtles. He said his father was a one-legged preacher that lost a leg in a sawmill, but he played ball, and you never would know that. His mama was a washerwoman, and John used to carry the water for her. And from that to Lincoln Academy. And at Lincoln Academy, John used to fire the furnace. He played football. And one day, he had to go in to see the master, the cast master there over the place. And he said, John, he said, they're saying that you and this young lady, said something's going on. He said, no, you need to, he said, why? John said, sir, he said, that young lady sit in your lap, what would you do? He said, boy, get out of here, get out of here, get out of here. So Hazel Biggers grew up in North Carolina at the age of 5. She went to school with her sister, Maisie, because she would cry. And she went to a one-room school, graduated at the age of 15, and went to Hampton. But in between, in the morning, Hazel had to go out and look and check the rabbit traps. They set traps for rabbits and so forth. As they went to Hampton, Hazel met John in the art department. They began to have a conversation along the Hampton River. So I guess that was the time they was vetting each other. Hazel went to Florida A&M. John followed Victor Lowenfeld to Penn State. John wrote to Hazel down the road and said, now or never. Now or never. That's the way he explained it to me in the studio. Hazel and John met in Philadelphia, and I assume that the pictures you see of the two of them, the early pictures, is when they first was married. John came to Texas, and in the art department is where my career and my memories of him started. He said, art is life. Again, that had a kind of effect on me. He said, one must understand what it is to be a person. He said, African art takes one outside of time and space. There were times when he would say, no one's limitation and expect no more. If he supersedes that, then you're pleasantly surprised. And he was. Each day he walked into the art department. Kermit Oliver, Edward Mills, Charles Kreiner. But behind that was a woman, Hazel Biggers. Hazel, Mom Biggers, was the person that took care of everything. John was trying to pay the bill. Hazel said, John, I think I can do a better job. He said, okay, baby. He did not know that he was put on restriction. He never, from that day forward, John never picked up a paycheck. Hazel picked it up. John Biggers got one allowance. It was $100 a month, a credit card, and that was it. So, all behind the scene, he dealt with his prints to people who could buy. And let me tell you a wonderful thing about Papa John. He never had representation for a gallery. You, the audience, and the people here was his representation. If you needed something, come to him. Yeah, he would sell you a print or a picture or whatever, but Hazel managed everything. When it was time, as Andrea said, for John to retire, or he was thinking about coming home, she said, John, if you'll wait until this time, you can come home. He said, what? And so he was able to come home to practice his own art. But when you walk into the studio, you will see the washpot. You will see the anvil. You will see all of the things from his childhood. The symbolic of the turtle. That was the thing that, the first law of nature. First law of nature is self-preservation first. When John Biggers moved, Hazel was right there with him. When John Biggers was going to Africa for the first time, Hazel was right there. John got up at 4:30 in the morning and went to work on the longshoreman's mural so that he could pay Hazel's way to Africa. In Africa, he spoke and he told me that a gentleman loaned them his home. He said when they opened the door, he said goats was on the tables. So they had to scrub the floor, wash out the house to have a place to sleep that night. Hazel never complained. You know, when you go on a mission and you go somewhere, you have to have everything that you need. When they would travel, Hazel would methodically on the bed, lay out, make a note, John's medicine, this and that. And most of you may not have known that John Biggers was a diabetic. He needed his insulin. Hazel never complained, but she was always with him. Hazel at home would wear a white apron during the daytime while she was working around the house. One day, Hazel said, I had to go to the store. She went to the store and she ran into some people that was John's client. She said she was embarrassed. So whenever Hazel would step out, if she was going forever, and Andrea Hills can attest to this, Hazel would be dressed to the T, casual or what. She knew the best of clothes. She knew the best of art. She knew what she wanted. She allowed John to have his own space. She would say, John, I think you need to stop on a piece of work that he was doing. He would say, okay, baby. I would go over, and by some chance, I became the surrogate son. I had keys to the studio. I had keys to the house. I drove John's car. There was a little station wagon. I started driving it so much that Hazel one day gave me the title to it. I would go over on a Sunday. I'll be through in a minute.
That was just
And John would say, come in, Hutnall. He said, have a seat. And this would mainly be on Sundays. He said, Hazel have cooked. He said, have dinner. Hazel would get up, and I'll look. She would have asparagus and all of this. And one steak, she would cut the steak in 3 pieces. And we would sit there and eat. When I would go there most of the time, John would be laying on the sofa, sleep, and listen to the news. Hazel would be in her chair with the lamp, with the ottoman, looking at the evening CBS News with her feet propped up reading. John would belch. Say, Hutnall, let's go to the studio. I said, okay. We go in the studio, And he said, uh-huh. He said, you see this over here? I said, yeah. He said, I need to make this change. He said, women have big hands to work with. And he would pick up the brush, and he would paint it out, and he would draw it. Then he would take a mirror and look over his shoulder and look back at it. And he said, come on, boy, let's go in the house. Hazel would get dressed to go shopping. And she said, John, I'm going and I'll be back. Wearing her hats, getting in her little car to go. He said, no, go look in the car, in the trunk. And he said, be careful and take out this bag and bring it in here. I said, okay. Hazel would be gone. He said, take it out. He said, what you see here is the great mother. And you see the family around her. You see all of this. You see the angles and so forth. He said, African art take one outside of time and space. He said, it is amazing. And we'd be sitting there talking and so forth and on. And then Hazel would come back home and she would look. And she said, John, you got another piece of African art? He said, yeah, baby. And when they moved to North Carolina, after Jim Biggers had found the space, okay, now I'm on the field. Jim Biggers had found the place. John wanted to go back to Kings Mountain, North Carolina. When they found the space, there was a lady that had a contract, and she could not fulfill the contract. They called John Biggers, and Hazel said, John, you want the space? He said, yeah, baby. And Hazel said, okay. She went to the account to John Biggers' art money. She kept it separate. And she took the money, she paid for the space. John and Hazel went up there. 30 acres, a lower lake or upper lake. Hazel's house and John's studio. And they named it Turtle Creek Lane. He spent the time there, and that's where they stayed until he returned back to Houston. And I'm going to end because there's so many stories and some things.
You got dinner tonight. You tell the rest of it down.
Okay. In the end, John said, boy, he said, I'm glad I've done my work. Dawn comes in the morning. He said, I'm glad I've done my work. And Hazel Biggers was there behind him, providing everything on a mission that you need to go. One picture struck me so profound was the dying soldier that he painted, a drawing, a little small drawing. The dying soldier, but John Biggers' imagination, everything in the background was that soldier's whole entire life. And as he was stretched out this way, with the rifle in his hand, that way, into the barbed wire, it brought back chilling memories to me of my experiences in Vietnam. At that time, I realized the importance of John Biggers. I realized the importance of his work. I realized his dedication to women. If you look at the mural, Contribution to Negro Women in Education, he said he had to make one trip that he had to decide. He had to decide in 1957 whether or not he was going to go and march with Martin Luther King, or whether he was going to stay and paint the web of life. And that's what you see, the web of life in the season. Earl Hutnall.
Earl Hutnall is a classic. He is a classic, and we appreciate him so much. Earl, Dr. Freeman should put you on that debate team. Whenever he stood up that meant Rodney, it's the next person's turn. Thank you, Earl Hutnall.
Dr. Freeman.
Don't do it now, don't do it now. You're going to do it at Dr. Biggers would be 101 years old tomorrow. I want the family to know that we have not designed a sign yet because we were arguing about the lobby, the building, or the whole campus, but it'll have Elvia and Earl Hutnall's fingerprints on it, but it'll be something special. Look, I want to bring up the two people that have helped bring his art to a whole different audience. Obviously, he was known by African Americans and serious art collectors. Dallas Museum of Fine Arts is going to give us permission to do one of my favorites early is a Starry Crown. Across our neighbor is the Women's Center, Houston Area Women's Center. women who are fleeing a bad situation. So I'd like to stop on the murals. You know, I got a passion for this African art myself, maybe from being a kid, being around you all, Elvia and Dr. Hutnall and John Biggers in his way. But we're going to put Starry Crown on the wall outside because it will inspire those women who are trying to get out of a bad situation who are our neighbors next door. But the couple that I met after the George Floyd tragedy, and General Mills was trying to put up some money, you know, they dropped that Angie Mama thing, which was so racist. So they decided to do a series of murals in about 5 cities around America, and they were paying for it. And they did one in downtown Houston about hunger insecurity, food insecurity. There's a Japanese artist that was doing it. And I met them then, and we had them over at our home. My wife wouldn't let them in. We had to eat in the yard, took a bike riding, and we got so connected. And that now is turned into 70 murals. And I'm helping them in other cities where they're having trouble getting permission to do walls. But please welcome to briefly talk about these murals. Since they flew in from New York and about Audrey and Tibo. Stay up here with you. Go on.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Where to start? Maybe by thanking everybody, I would say so. We're incredibly humbled first to be here. The honor today, John Biggers, a master painter, somebody that we really want everybody to know. So very, very happy, humbled. I can speak also for all the artists that actually have painted all those murals to say how humble they were also to be able to replicate his art and how difficult also it was because he spent a lot of time, a lot of details on it. So first, humble. I want to say also that we're incredibly thankful for a lot of people here, first of which Commissioner Alice right here, for allowing us to paint all those murals, for trusting us in painting those murals. Judge Hidalgo also for allowing us also and spreading the word on what we do. Thank you for taking that piece at your home. It means a lot to us. Dr. Wardlow, of course, for all the countless conversations, all the precious information that we were able to gather that inspired also the art and gave a lot of spirit to what we're doing. Earl, of course, same for all the precious conversations, for the pictures, for the stories, which also nourish a lot our art. And of course, to the entire Biggers family for allowing us to paint and reproduce those murals, which again is incredibly humbling for us to actually honor. He was such a painter, so thank you on that part. I want to say also that I feel incredibly alive today. It's surprising. I was in ER yesterday, and I'm pretty happy to be here. It means a lot. I wanted to make that plane, and I'm really, really super happy that we get this opportunity to honor John and be there today. For nothing in the world, I would have missed that plane. So thank you. Thank you for having us. Thibaut Decker, Audrey Decker, we're the co-founders of a nonprofit called, so a couple also, Street Art for Mankind, that paints murals across the world. We were created 10 years ago out of a calling. We were corporate, before, and we met with a Nobel Peace Prize called Kailash Satyarthi. His work, his entire life was actually around saving kids. So from trafficking, we got moved, we dropped everything we had, created Street Art for Mankind, first to talk about trafficking, and then more, the UN heard about it, they came behind us, they called us to New York, they asked us to start painting about child trafficking and then about women, about all the causes, because there's more causes in the world than we can imagine. So all the SDGs, which are part of the murals right here in Houston. And very happy to be able to do what we do, very humble also to do what we do today. I'm going to pass it to Audrey because in front of every man, there's actually a woman, way stronger, even though the size, right? and pushing even harder. So I'm incredibly humbled also to be with you.
Well, shut up, I would say. Thank you. I was not expecting the ER reminder. It was a brutal day yesterday, but we are alive, and I think we are all grateful to be alive, and let's celebrate life, and also let's celebrate the spirit. I mean, the wonderful student of TSU made a beautiful speech, and they talked about the fact that John Bigger's spirit is forever, and we agree 100%. Actually, working on those murals, we had the humble luck to go through his life, to learn about his work in a lot of details, to get inspiration from Avia, thanks a lot, from Earl as well. It was a very, very special travel through the work of the artist, but also through the journey of the African American in America. So we felt extremely humbled, and as Rodney Commissioner Annie said earlier, we were super happy to have the opportunity to spread the word and put this amazing work on huge wall to really bring millions of views on this incredible artist. I mean, we deserve a united country, a united world, and it's true that John Biggers had this vision for all of us, and we thank his spirit every day. I also like to add something very funny that happened, almost weird, with Avia and Earl, is that, so we bought the book that Avia Waldo, I'm sure most of you have read it, that's an incredible book about John Biggers, extraordinary book, and of course we bought it, we read it, we are really inspired. And of course, you know, because we are big fans of Dr. Avia Waldo, we brought the book to her for her to sign the book along with Earl when we met and talked about one of the mural here. And the surprise was huge because when we opened the book, Avia said, "But Audrey, your book is signed by John Biggers himself." Which of course, you know, we saw the name, we didn't realize it was an actual signature. So now we are we felt extremely proud because first it felt very strange because we were in front of that mural, which is huge. So we are in front of Ghana dancers, Thibaut and I with the book, signed by John Biggers with Avia and Earl. So it felt like a bit of a spiritual moment, I think, to all of us. It felt very, very special. And well, I want to thank you, Avia, thank you all for being there for us. And thank you all. And yes, again, let's spread this beautiful spirit of the artist. And we'll be excited to show you more of the works we've been doing about, you know, series about legacy of change, the John Biggers as well, and maybe more mural we did in the downtown. But thank you again for being here, and let's celebrate life.
Okay, we're going to talk. If you're lucky enough to be on that tour of the bus, you hear from this. Look, I want to close with this. We're going to take pictures, Judge. So when they come back, the family will stay there. We'll get in there with them, and photographers will get up here. Those, if you're not in the family, but they gave you permission before we ran out of seats on the bus, get the tag, the wristband at the desk, but make sure we got seats for all of the family. I want to tell you this little funny story. So this was the first mural we did. It's on the Juvenile Justice Center, downtown, replica, that we did. And the artist, that was the first one, right? This one, that we did. The first one, of the Biggers. Oh, this was the one, Hester House, of the Biggers series. And there's a Canadian artist who did it. And then I made him team up with a young guy who was an engineering student, dropped out of architecture because he really loved art. And he is, Arzu. Yeah, Arzu, and what's his family heritage? Oh, he's Guyana, whatever it is. It's some deep African ancestry. So they did it together, and I did get a few complaints when they were working on this one. The county people called me and said, "Commissioner, we don't want you to get in trouble. You know, they after you all the time. And we smell some of that strange cigarettes." So, you know, they didn't have that natural inspiration some of these younger artists like Dr. Biggers had. You know, some artists in this generation did a scotch from time to time or gin. So then when they were working on this last one, which is untitled, in this bill, I come in here at night sometimes to go to the gym, worried about weight at my age. So I'm working out, and then I come out here, and it was great. It's a black guy and a white guy, and they out here listening to Nina Simone and just going crazy. And I went to my office a little while, came back, then they listened to Mahalia Jackson. And then I said, "Y'all not smoking that stuff, are you?" And then they told me, no, you know, they did the research and they were setting the mood. Because the Biggers love Mahalia Jackson and Nina Simone. It's just so strange to me, these young people. I love Nina Simone and Mahalia Jackson, especially if I was trying to pass the bar exam or something. I get real spiritual. But just a delight with what they do. But just so much work into trying to replicate what he does. I want to thank you all for coming. Enjoy the building. I hope, LV, you got a feel for Vickers. Did we do okay? Below the pictures and all. Thank you. Yes.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask all of you to give a hearty round of applause to this man. Thank you for this man. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you all very much. So, thank you so much. Judge, we're going to come over. Faculty, we're going to we'll take a picture of the family. Photographer, get up here, we'll do it, because that bus needs to take off by 11:20. We didn't plan food for them. They're going to get hungry. If I'll stop, I'll put my credit card on the bus. Because this is a big town to roll around. All right, I'll skip anything. Oh, Ron Reynolds, State Representative Ron Reynolds, my workout buddy. Come up, take these pictures with us. Thank you. Member of Texas Legislative Black Caucus. Ron, I don't see you, but come up, take these pictures. All right, thank you all.